everybody. I'm Skip Alsheimer. Welcome to the AV Geeks Lunchtime Streaming Show, where we watch old 16mm films, and that was some raw 16mm footage taken locally at North Carolina State University sometime in the late 70s, we think. I don't really have a year, but this was from a bunch of films that I got from a son of a local filmmaker who had a bunch of just kind of raw footage that he was trying to get out. So there you go. That's what that is. Today is the 1st of August, but there's nothing else special beyond that. I looked at my calendar, which told me that there was something special going on today. And then I looked at the AV Geeks lunch screening spreadsheet, and I realized that today is not special. Tomorrow is special. So there you go. And what I also realized is that we need to talk about cotton in today's world. Enjoy.
Of the many different kinds of plants that man grows for his use, cotton is one of the most important. Man's use of cotton is worldwide, and the crop is grown in many different lands. Here is a woman carding cotton in a village in West Africa. A man adjusts a power loom in Mexico. And in Brazil, workers pick ripe cotton. Indonesian children wear shirts and shorts of cotton. And in the United States, a garment worker cuts cotton cloth. The cotton industry in India is very old, for cotton has been grown in India for centuries. Cotton, one of the world's oldest crops, was grown in India as early as 2500 BC on the banks of the Indus River. The ancient city of Mohenjo-daro in the Indus Valley may have been the place where cotton was first grown and used by men. In Egypt, too, cotton has a very long history. Ancient sculptures and paintings in Egypt show men wearing short tunics of cotton, as we see in this model. From the ancient lands of the East, knowledge of the uses of cotton spread around the Mediterranean and across Europe to England. By the late 1700s, the cotton textile industry was flourishing in many parts of England. In America, it was an Englishman, Samuel Slater, who built the first cotton mills. Cotton for American mills came from the southern United States, where the climate was best suited for growing it. Most southern farmers produced only a small annual crop because of the tiresome task of having to remove the cotton seeds from the fibers by hand. For centuries, seeds had been removed in this slow, tedious way. Then, in 1793, a seed-removing machine was invented by Eli Whitney. He called it the cotton engine, or cotton gin. The cotton gin mechanized the removal of seeds, helping to make possible the processing of greater amounts of cotton and the growing of cotton on larger and larger plantations. The development of the plantation system brought wealth to many planters and enabled them to live prosperously. So vital was the cotton trade to their economy that the planters called it king cotton. Through the long history of this plant, growers have developed many different types of cotton. Among these varieties, there are differences in the length of the fibers and in the sturdiness of the fibers. These 6 varieties of cotton are among those grown by the world's leading cotton-producing countries. The United States leads all other countries, producing about 15 million bales per year. Other major world producers are the Soviet Union, India, Mexico, China, Egypt, and Brazil. The lead of the United States in world production depends mainly upon its fertile cotton belt, stretching across a vast portion of the southern United States. Some of the small farms in the cotton belt still depend on hand labor to harvest the crop. Cotton which is grown for hand picking is usually picked 2 or even 3 times during the year. Although hand picking is still done in the cotton belt, most of the work today is done by machines. A mechanical picker can pick as much cotton in 1 hour as can 7 average hand pickers in 1 day. But the work of growing the cotton with the help of machines begins long before the cotton harvest. Before planting cotton in the spring, the stalks of last year's crop are cut up and left to decay, thus adding humus to the soil. After plowing, the soil is further broken up by using a harrow. Finally, the field is ready for planting. Once again, planting is a job that is done with the help of a machine. The machine is loaded with fertilizer, as well as with cotton seeds. Planters try to choose the type of seed which they know will grow best in their particular area. One type of planting machine plants the cotton seed, fertilizes the seed, and closes the furrow in one operation. Where rainfall is insufficient, irrigation is used for growing cotton. West Texas and California are producing large amounts of cotton on irrigated land. As the cotton plants grow, they are thinned out by using a hoe in a process called chopping. Chopping is still done in many places by hand. On large farms, when machines do planting that is evenly spaced, the young plants do not have to be thinned out. Cotton grows best in a humid subtropical climate with a rainfall of 20 to 60 inches per year. After the plants have been thinned out and continue to grow, they must be weeded. This is sometimes done by hand, but machine cultivators are also used to keep down the weeds between the rows of cotton plants. Before the cotton plants are mature, they produce beautiful white blossoms. Just below each flower, after it has bloomed, there is a slight swelling. This is the developing cotton boll. To protect the bolls, the fields are dusted with various kinds of insect poison. Low-flying planes are often used to spray insecticide which will kill the cotton boll weevil. The eggs of this insect are laid on the cotton plant. When the larvae hatch, they eat into the boll, destroying the cotton fibers. Before harvesting, fields are sometimes dusted with a chemical that destroys the leaves of the plants, leaving the ripened bolls. This simplifies machine picking. Each plant may produce 100 or more bolls in a season. Each boll consists of 3 to 5 sections, each section containing both the fluffy cotton fibers and cotton seeds. Now the cotton is ready to be picked. Machine picking is done on nearly all the large farms. This kind of mechanical picker has turning spindles which collect the cotton. After the whirling spindles pick the bolls, they are blown into a large bin at the rear of the picker. After picking, the cotton seeds are removed by huge modern gins. Then the cleaned cotton is pressed into bales, weighing about 500 pounds each. Now the baled cotton fiber is ready for the cotton markets and mills of the world. This cotton may go to a textile factory to be spun into thread on mechanical spindles. Then it may be woven into cloth that is cut up, and later sewn into cotton dresses and other cotton wear. Some cotton is made into string, or many other household and business products. Cottonseed oil is also useful in making products such as soap and cooking oil. In the lives of millions of people in many lands, cotton, one of man's oldest crops, continues to play an important part in today's world.
Where am I? I'm invisible. Yeah. Have a couple of films about cotton. And some of them, unfortunately, celebrate that golden age of the plantation South, with having people of color picking cotton and then playing some sort of Southern Negro spiritual, and it just comes off very, very wrong. So, we've been digitizing a lot of Coronet films, so we got more Coronet films ready to show you than we do anything else. So here's Fundamentals of Public Speaking. Enjoy.
Did you ever hear about the tree stumps from which the early settlers delivered speeches a couple of 100 years ago? Well, we had that in mind when some of the young fellows in my neighborhood asked me to help them form a speech club. So we called it the Stump Speakers Society. Now, of course, as a lawyer, I've done a great deal of public speaking. But did you ever consider how many jobs depend on your ability to express yourself to a group of people? Whether it's the foreman on a project, or a judge on the bench, or a salesman, it's important to be a good speaker. And when you speak well, you get along better with people. Whether it's persuading them to come along and have fun at a wiener roast, or trying to be a better citizen at school or in the community. And so it was that an assembly meeting for the Student Council election led eventually to the forming of our Stump Speakers Society. Tom Carey was one of the candidates, and he wanted to win that election. But, well, what do you think of his speech?
And if I'm elected, and I hope I will be, I promise you that the Student Council will investigate the possibilities of staggering the lunch hour to reduce congestion and crowding. I also think that the students...
Yes, Tom's audience was not tuned in on him. No matter how good his ideas were, he was not getting them across. And his friend, Bill Brent, was worried. Why didn't they listen to Tom? He was trying to tell them something, but what was it?
Hey, Bill. You fella don't catch your mirrors belong to me, fella. Your ears belong to big fella Crown. What'd you say? Can you understand my pigeon English? No. I was trying to get across the idea that you weren't getting any ideas across to the gang in there.
It sounded interesting, but did you hear what Tom said? It sounded like a lot of dull talk to me.
What good are ideas if people won't listen? You've got to make them want to listen, Tom. Yeah, I'd like to help you win this election. I'd like to be your campaign manager. Swell idea. But what do we do first? If we're going to win, our big job is to put your ideas across to our audiences. That means making good speeches. And I know just a man who can help us. My dad knows him. He's a lawyer. So we came to see you, Mr. Norton. How can we learn to speak more effectively, to put Tom across in this election?
Well, what have you got to say? Who's your audience? What's your purpose in talking to them?
Wait a minute. Who's asking the questions here?
You are, both of you, to get yourselves ready to speak. You see, there are 3 major steps to effective speaking, and 3 subpoints in each of those 3 steps. In fact, these can be made into a series of triangles that I use to help me remember. Now, can you remember to analyze, plan, and deliver?
Analyze, plan, deliver. You got that, Tom? Got it, but what does it mean?
Well, let's take them one step at a time.
Oh, all right.
Like it? Now, when you analyze a speech situation, consider your subject, your audience, and your purpose. First, your subject. Consider your facts and arguments so you will know what you can contribute on this subject. Second, your audience. What is your audience interested in, and why? It does make a difference, doesn't it? Consider also your purpose in making a speech, whether it's simply to amuse or to convince someone.
In other words, why are we speaking?
Now you're on the right track.
Well, that certainly seems to cover the analyze part of it, Mr. Norton. Well, what's the next basic step?
Well, after analyze comes plan. I have it right here. There we are. Plan.
Plan. What we consider in planning a speech. First, select. Select the material you'll use, the information, the arguments, and so forth. Then after you select, you arrange. Oh, that must mean like writing a term paper. You have your introduction with an interest arouser and a statement of your key idea. Then the main part. Body, all outline. Main points, subpoints. Now, a logical development of ideas. And in conclusion, you wind it up. Or tell them what you told them. Then the third part of your plan is to illustrate. Illustrate? I can't draw.
Well, that doesn't necessarily mean drawings, though it does help to visualize your ideas. But you can sometimes paint a picture with words to make your points clear.
Oh, I get it.
I usually use a note card like this when I speak. I jot down an outline of the ideas and illustrations that I have selected and arranged. Then, I know my speech will be according to plan, based on my analyzing. And now...
There's more?
Oh, yes. The result that you've done all this for. The delivery.
All right, this one's on me. Let's see. Delivery includes being direct.
What about it? Would you rather hear me speak while I gaze at the ceiling or around the room? Or would you prefer that I look at you as I speak, holding your interest and showing you that I am interested in what I'm saying?
Boy, that one is on me. I guess I wasn't very direct when I made my speech last week, was I? Well, let's see. Be distinct. That makes sense, but I guess all of us don't always remember it. There's no use speaking if people don't understand.
That's it. Open your mouth. Wake up your speech muscles. Improve your enunciation.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's see. Be lively. You mean dance around?
Well, not exactly. But I put it up to you. Should I speak with a fixed expression and stance? Or should my gestures and facial expression be lively to hold your interest and emphasize what I'm saying? Should my voice be lively too, changing in loudness and in emphasis?
Yeah, I guess we have been sort of lazy mouth about lively in our speaking. And I can see that it's better speaking to be distinct.
Yes, you've done a lot of work. Now, top it off with a good delivery.
I can see there's a lot to be learned. A lot. In fact, we ought to line up some of the others, learn some of this speaking, and really put this election over.
That's all right. But the speaking business, that'll be important long after the election's forgotten. And Mr. Norton, if we get together to form a speech club, will you help out? Be our advisor?
Well, that was the start of our speech club, the Stump Speakers Society. We agreed that there were many good books to study together, and we could learn by examining good speakers in action, in person, in films, and on the radio. And Bill and the other fellows in the club are developing effective speaking techniques. As they go on through school and out into life, they'll find many occasions when the ability to express themselves will be a real asset. They'll find that these principles of public speaking are good guides. Analyze your subject, your audience, and your purpose. Plan your speech. First, select your material, then arrange it and illustrate. And when you deliver your speech, be direct, be distinct, and be lively. Whether Tom wins the election or not, he and the others are learning the power and personal development that comes when one is able to express oneself to a group of people. Tom still has much to learn, but he's on his way to a better social life, better school life, and better business life with effective speaking.
As a member of the party, which I am certainly one, it was fascinating to watch. And what's interesting, I think, is that public speaking now is coupled with showing a PowerPoint presentation often. So you have this, your cards are up there. You have a laptop that has the information in front of you. And so it is fascinating to see how that has shifted, how that has changed. For the better and for the worse, actually. I think that PowerPoint presentations are sometimes a crutch. And I have to think about that when I'm doing presentations, that I oftentimes just put up an image and then talk about whatever I'm going to talk about. And the image might have something to do with what I'm saying. Maybe not. But also I used to like write down everything and then just basically just read off the screen. But that's just insanely boring for the people involved. So, anyways, so behind me I have a film scanner, and we are going to watch a film, and if it threads up, so let's kind of see what happens. This is Seatbelt Safety. Enjoy. Almost there.
Oh, hi. I'm not quite ready for you yet, but come on in. I've looked through all this stuff and I still can't find it. You know, the one thing that's going to convince you to start wearing your seatbelt every time you ride. But I'll tell you what I have found. I found out why you've been so hard to convince, me or anybody else. You don't believe in the laws. No, not the state seatbelt laws. I'll talk about them later. You don't believe in the laws of physics. Okay, I know you believe in one of them. The law of gravity. Give something half a chance and it falls. You found that out for yourself, and you respect it. But momentum, that's another story. In your car, you feel safe and secure. You don't feel the momentum till you put on the brakes. But you're prepared for that. You know a car can be a dangerous place, but not your car, not with you driving. But what if you do have an accident? And the odds say you will. Would your coffee cup just spill a little harder? Or would the invisible force of momentum grip you and hurl you towards injury or death?
Well, I've made fast stops before, and I didn't get hurt.
We all have, that's true. But there's a big difference between the impact of a fast braking stop, which lasts 2 to 4 seconds and covers 20 feet of road, and an abrupt crash stop. The more time and distance the momentum's force is spread over before the actual stop, the less the impact of the stop on the car or its occupants. But a crash stop can take only 1/10 of a second, covers only 2 feet of road. When the momentum's force is spread over such a short span of time and space, the impact is much more violent. This test crash, using dummies, occurred at 20 miles per hour. The fast stop we saw a minute ago was made at the same speed. You can see the difference in the force of impact, but unless you've been in such a crash, it's hard to imagine how overwhelming the momentum can be.
I've seen those crashes with dummies, but I'm no dummy. I could brace myself in a crash.
I know you're not a dummy. You're not as easily repaired and you can't be replaced. So I sure hope you listen when I tell you why it's almost impossible to brace yourself in a crash. But first, let's look at exactly what happens when a vehicle collides. 2 collisions actually occur. First, the vehicle collides and begins to crush at its point of impact. Within 1/10 of a second, it comes to a complete stop. But the people inside are still moving at the same speed the vehicle had been traveling. 1/50th of a second later, the people collide with the car's interior, with each other, or with something outside the car if they are thrown out. It's this second, or human collision, that injures and kills people. But why can't you brace yourself against that second collision? Here's why. If you want to find out how hard you'd be hitting whatever you hit, you take your own body weight times the speed at which the vehicle was traveling. So, let's be conservative and say I was traveling at 30 miles per hour. 160 times 30 equals 4,800. So in a 30 mile per hour crash, I'd hit the steering wheel, or maybe the windshield, with 4,800 pounds of force. That's about the same as the collision I'd have with the ground if I fell 30 feet onto the pavement. Now, if you weigh 100 pounds, you'd hit with 3,000 pounds of force. If you weigh 200, you'd hit with 6,000 pounds of force. And all that happens less than 1/4 of a second after the crash first begins. No one is fast enough or strong enough to brace against a collision like that. But your seatbelt is. Now, let's see what happens wearing seatbelts during a crash. Some of your momentum is absorbed when the car's body crunches in the first collision. The seats in a car are anchored to its frame, so if you're secured to the seat, you become part of the car's momentum. The second collision you have will be with the seatbelts. All that deadly force will be spread safely over the many square inches of the belt's surfaces, impacting the parts of your body least likely to be injured. When you wear your seatbelt, the laws of physics at play in a crash will work for you to the greatest degree possible.
Well, I still think I'd rather be thrown free of a car in a crash.
You want to be thrown free of your car into what? Oncoming traffic? A big truck, maybe? Even if you only hit the pavement or a tree or a building, you'd hit with the same several thousand pounds of force. Remember our calculation. Your body weight times the speed of the car. And outside the car, who knows what part of your body would hit hardest? The truth is, you're 25 times more likely to die if you're thrown from the car in a crash.
But what's always scared me is, what if my car caught on fire or got run off a bridge into the water? A seatbelt would trap me in.
A lot of people think of that, so let's see if it's true. Remember what happens in a crash. First, the vehicle collides. Then, the people collide, but with the seatbelts, if they're wearing them, instead of the car's hard interior. This guy is startled, but he has no broken bones, no head injuries. It takes less time to unbuckle than to open the car door. Does anyone think it would be safer to drive with the doors open, just in case? The same accident with no seatbelt is a much grimmer picture. Which condition would you rather be in if you had to get out of a car in a hurry? Actually, only one crash in 200 involves fire or deep water. And it looks like you're better off wearing your seatbelts in those crashes too.
I've got 2 kids. It would take me all day to get my shopping done if I had to use safety seats. Besides, in a really bad accident, I don't think anything would protect a child.
Wrong again. You can protect your child by using your brain, not your brawn. Your child feels safe and secure in your lap, but you should know better than to travel this way. Experts call this the child crusher position. If a crash occurs at only 30 miles per hour, the several thousand pounds of force that you collide with will crush your child in front of you. Not many children would survive a fall from a 3-story building or being run over by a truck. Your body's force would be just as great. But no matter where in your car your child may be, he or she is dangerously vulnerable to injury if not restrained by belts or a crash-tested safety seat. Even the momentum of a sudden stop can be deadly to young, helpless passengers. Crash-tested child restraints are designed to work with the laws of physics at play in a crash. Momentum is safely absorbed, and the most vulnerable parts of your child's body are protected. Crash-tested seats provide the only safe way for your young children to travel. Most children never complain once they've gotten used to their own special place in the car. It's important that you use the right seat for your child and that you use it correctly. Your local auto club or police department can help you find all the information you need to protect your child in this important way. And it's never too early to start this protection. The ride from the hospital should be baby's first ride in a safety seat. But every mother can protect her baby even earlier. Pregnant women can safely wear shoulder and lap belts. The shoulder belt should be positioned comfortably, usually high. The lap belt should be worn low on the pelvis, so it will pull downward over her hip bones, not upward into her tummy. She should avoid wearing the belts over several layers of clothing, since the clothes may cause the belts to slip into the wrong positions. The unborn baby is already protected by its mother's body, but they both need the protection of seat belts every time they ride in a car.
I always buckle my kids in. It's the law in my state, but I only use my belt on the freeway. Seems to me that people only die in the big pileups when all the cars are going fast.
Where did you get that idea? The truth is, you're more likely to be killed coming home from the store or on your way out for pizza. Let's look at some hard facts. 3 out of 4 fatal accidents happen within 25 miles of home. 80% of all accidents occur under 40 miles per hour. People have been killed at speeds as low as 12 miles per hour. Does that convince you that you need to wear your seatbelt even in your own neighborhood? Now, wait a minute. I want to show you something. This car was in a 12-mile-per-hour crash. The driver, who was unbelted, was killed. This car was in a 37-mile-per-hour crash. The 3 people inside were belted. They walked away from the crash with minor injuries. Do you find it hard to believe that you could die if you crashed at 12 miles per hour? Well, remember the laws of physics and our calculation. At 12 miles per hour, I'd hit a hard surface with almost 2,000 pounds of force. So, can you drive slowly enough to be safe with no seatbelt? You tell me. This windshield was cracked by an unbelted passenger's head at 5 miles per hour.
I know I should wear my seatbelt, but I forget. Anyway, when I do wear it, it messes up my clothes.
I usually wear mine, but I don't see how it could work.
It's designed to grip only in a crash or fast stop. This is how it works. Under normal driving conditions, your lap belt will be tight, but the reel which holds your shoulder belt will rotate freely, allowing you freedom of movement in your seat. But if your car makes a fast stop or is in a collision, the force of momentum will cause the pendulum to swing forward, tripping the bar and locking the reel and belt in place. Some of the older style belts have a different type of gripping mechanism. You should be familiar with your car system so you can test it periodically. All seat belts have one thing in common. They can save your life, but only if you use them. And while you're at it, you might as well use them right. If you're worried about wrinkling your clothes, you can minimize that. Pull the belts way out and hold the lap belt with one hand while you secure the buckle with the other. Always position the lap belt low on your pelvis. That way, if a collision occurs, the belt won't impact your softer midsection areas. Let the lap belt slack in till it's snug, but not overly tight. Position the shoulder belt comfortably, and you're ready to go. If you have an older car with separate lap and shoulder belts, remember, the belts are much more effective when you wear them both. The lap belt alone is much safer than no belt, but never wear the shoulder belt without the lap belt. The shoulder belt alone will not secure you to your seat. It's designed as an added protection. Remembering to buckle up is a lot easier when you make it a habit, like closing your car door or taking your keys. Before you know it, you won't feel secure driving off without your seatbelt on. And you won't just feel more secure, you'll be more secure. All the statistics support that fact. Studies have shown that you reduce your chances of being injured or killed by 50% the moment you buckle your seatbelt. One study, covering 28,000 traffic accidents in Sweden, found that no one wearing seatbelts was killed at a crash speed of less than 60 miles per hour. Unbelted victims died at 12 miles per hour. I'd say those are pretty impressive statistics. But statistics are just that, statistics. Some people aren't really convinced till they find out firsthand for themselves.
Several years ago, I was involved in an automobile accident where I had been coming down Main Street in Northern California with several other people in the car. They were wearing seat belts, but I was not, and we were hit broadside. They suffered a few minor cuts and bruises, and I myself came out pretty bad from not wearing the seat belt. I suffered a fractured spine, pelvis, torn cartilage in the knees, and a really bad whiplash. I've had to have surgery in one knee because of it, and I was told that it almost severed my spine, and that I was in the hospital for 2 months, and I had to learn how to walk all over again. And I was told at one point in my life, about a year or so later, one of the nurses that I became good friends with while I was in the hospital told me that the doctor had said that he didn't think I would walk again.
On Christmas Day in 1985, we were going to my mother-in-law's house for Christmas dinner, and I was wearing my seatbelt, and I had it low under the baby and across my chest, and a truck came around the turn and skidded out of control and stopped in our lane, and we hit it broadside. And everyone was thrown forward, and I was the only one wearing a seatbelt, and my seatbelt kept me from being crushed against the steering wheel. My husband was thrown into the windshield and broke the windshield out, and broke the rearview mirror, and was crushed against the dashboard, kind of. The 4 children were in the back seat, and they were all thrown forward. My youngest daughter got a fractured skull and a black eye, and my other daughters had a back injury and a leg injury, and they all had neck injuries. But my baby was not injured because I was wearing the seatbelt. The doctors told me if I hadn't been wearing the seatbelt, my baby would probably have been crushed between my body and the steering wheel.
About 8 years ago, we had just bought a new car. It was only 3.5 weeks old. And we lived on a hill, and we were going up the hill. And at the top of the hill, we met a car in our lane. Well, my husband tried to ditch this car and could not do so, and we were hit head on, going about 40 miles on his side, maybe 30, 35 on ours. And if my children had not worn their seat belts in the back seat, along with their car seats, they would have probably been thrown clear out of the car. And I had a seatbelt on, and at the time the police told me if I would not have, I'd have probably blown out at the front of the window because there was no window left. And I really firmly believe that the seatbelts that we had worn at the time had saved our lives.
The thing that I would say about not wearing a seatbelt is you could take your life in your own hands by not wearing one, and that if you want to save your life, wear a seatbelt. Because I've been in several other accidents since that time, and I have not had anything like that happen to me, other than just a few cuts and bruises.
I'm a very safe driver. I never drive carelessly, and I don't think I'll ever be in a wreck.
Never? Okay, for argument's sake, let's say that you're a perfect driver, always careful and alert, and your vehicle is maintained flawlessly. But what about them? Will they call their parents for rides home tonight? Or this guy? Do you think he's had his brakes checked lately? And nice people never drive when they're upset. Or do they?
Life is full of risks. If I want to take the chance and drive without seatbelts, it's no one's business but my own.
Hold it, pal. That's where you're really wrong. People who don't wear seatbelts cost us all. That's why so many state laws now require that you wear them. As taxpayers, we all share the financial burden for the accidents on our streets or highways. There's now conclusive proof that accidents tend to be more serious and rescue efforts more costly when the people involved were not wearing seatbelts. We also pay higher insurance premiums due to the large claims which are paid out to badly injured victims. People who could have escaped part or all of their injuries if they had just buckled up. Your own safety is threatened by unbelted drivers and unbelted passengers. An unbelted driver is much more likely to lose control of his vehicle and not regain it after the first collision. He often causes a more serious accident involving more cars or pedestrians. An unbelted passenger can collide with and injure even a belted driver. A collision can hurl them into the front seat with a tremendous force, where they have caused paralyzing spinal injuries to front seat occupants. We're all at risk here, and we're all paying for the damage. The crazy part is, so much of it is preventable. Is it so surprising that the government thought it was time to get involved? Many states now have seatbelt use laws in effect. If your state is one of them, you may be required to wear your seatbelt at all times in your car, or maybe just to use car seats or belts for your children. Regardless of your state's laws, the laws of physics are in effect everywhere. I hope you'll now agree that only a fool would ever drive a car unbelted. If you don't have the seatbelt habit yet, the time to start is now. Do it for yourself, or for your family, for your community, or your country. Do it for whoever or whatever you want, but please, do it now. We can each make a difference in the quality of so many lives, but only if we work together, making the simple commitment to always buckle up. So if someday you're in a hurry,
10 minutes to get across town. I'll never make it.
and you're tempted not to take that extra moment, just remember, the seats of your car may feel as secure as your living room sofa, but they're not. The invisible force of momentum could become undeniable at any time.
You know, honey, it's the law now. We really should be wearing our seatbelts.
If the unexpected should occur, wouldn't you rather have the laws of physics on your side?
So what's interesting is, so we in watching that, you saw what looked like it was like this weird speckly, almost like it's in flames, the red, and that's called color breathing. So what's happening is the emulsion is fading, but only parts of the emulsion are fading, and each frame is a little bit different, which is why you saw that kind of weird mottled effect. I have another Sandler film from around that time period that has the exact same problem. So I think it's the film stock or how it was processed. I'm not sure what it is, but it's really weird. And it's hard to do color correction for it because it's uneven and each frame is different. So there's ways to strategize, but it's kind of a lost cause. It's very frustrating when I see a film like that, because that's hard. I mean, if it's a consistent across the frame fading of color, it's easy to fix. But anyways, that was fascinating. Thank you, Old Radios, for contributing via ko-fi.com/avgeeks. That helps us go to do things like buy this book by a fellow collector, Jeff Alexander, who wrote a book about academic films for the classroom, and he actually talks about a lot of the filmmakers who made the films. He tends to like the EB films, Encyclopedia Britannica films, and he doesn't like the what he calls social engineering films, which are the ones that we like, that Coronet makes. But that's okay. He's a great guy. And he actually just donated his collection to Johns Hopkins University. So it's pretty exciting. He still, I think, has some films, but most of them are there. I think we're going to call it because tomorrow is a special day. I confirmed it. We did the math. And I'm not going to say anything else about it. But I appreciate you guys tuning in. As always, if you like what you saw, you can hit the thumbs up button, the like button. You can do like Old Radios did and go to the ko-fi.com/avgeeks or to the patreon.com/avgeeks. Or you can just hit the thumbs up button, the like button, the subscribe button. You can tell other people about what we're doing. All those are great ways to support us. And also go into tiktok.com/@avgeeks. At av.geeks is a TikTok channel that we've been experimenting with to see if people in the TikTok generation can stand 10 to 20 seconds clips of films from our collection. I don't know. I don't know if it's translating as well as YouTube is, but we're giving it a shot. Thanks again for tuning in, and we will be back again tomorrow for a special show. All right. Everybody have the great rest of your first day of August. Enjoy.